Whew. Take a deep breath of fresh air, guys.
That's a W right there. That's how we do it. 40 points.
Oh, yes. It feels a little bit better, these types of shows. But, guys, welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I'm your host, Rob Haytayan. Joining with me are my two co-hosts, Seamus Zarlingo and Brendan Cox. Guys, today, the Celtics, they start their 4-game Western Conference road trip. They're out west in California for the next couple of days, guys. Tonight, the Celtics, well, they won 125-85, guys. Complete domination out there in the Bay Area. 2022 Finals rematch. Anytime we see these guys in blue, it feels good to get a win, especially a win like this, guys. Obviously, the Celtics coming off of yet another brutal loss at home against the Atlanta Hawks. Some pressure, some questions have been asked floating around the Celtics sphere. What's going wrong? The Celtics maybe answered the call tonight, guys, yet again. However, I will say this before we get started, guys. We have seen this a lot. We have seen this trend from Boston. So this post-game show, I'm curious to hear kind of where you guys are at within the Celtics organization and this team. But before we get started, guys, the initial drill, our initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways from what was a very impressive 40-point win from the Celtics.
It's weird to say that a 40-point win is a bit annoying, but that's kind of how it is right now for the Boston Celtics. Right. With the other night, of course, coming at the Garden, the Celtics blow out the Orlando Magic, and we went on postgame thinking maybe a turning point on the horizon here, maybe a future turning point. And then the Celtics go and suffer yet another horrendous loss to the Atlanta Hawks in overtime on Saturday, of course. And now we're sitting here with a 40-point win, and I guess we have to say it again. Could this be another turning point? Could the Magic game actually be a turning point? I thought during the Hawks game, I know we came in here and ranted on postgame, but at the same time, I was thinking, maybe we can break out a nice, good West Coast road trip, and maybe that Atlanta Hawks game, we look back and go, well, we did have that game in hand, but we just couldn't get all the details in a row down the stretch, and we just lose that one in overtime. That's what I'm hoping for is the case with the Celtics right now, because really the last horrendous game was against Toronto. That was still 3 games ago, and we're still getting past that. But at this point in time, the last 3 games, if you really look at them, it's been a different tone for the Boston Celtics, and especially the Magic game, especially tonight, beating the Warriors by 40, and it's really on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively for the Celtics. You see 125 on the board for the Celtics tonight, but then you look at the other side, 85 for the Golden State Warriors, and the Warriors, they only had 39 points at halftime. That was on par with that Raptors game earlier that we played on New Year's Eve, and then, of course, not the Raptors game in Toronto. We all know what happened there. Now, that's going to be the new one that's mentioned. Oh, the Toronto game, the Toronto game, the Toronto game.
OKC Thunder.
But ultimately, too, the Celtics in that third quarter, what you like to see out of this game is the Celtics winning at halftime up 15. But in that third quarter, they put up 43 points on the board, which is almost as much as they put up in the first half, which was 54. And that was pretty much the end of the game. From there on out, the Celtics came out strong, continued what they were doing well in the first half. And really, the fourth quarter was just a nice little rest period for all the starters. Jason Tatum didn't play the entirety of the fourth quarter. And that's what you like to see when you're on the first game of a West Coast road trip, particularly in this game, because this was supposed to be one of the tougher games on the West Coast road trip against the Warriors on MLK Day, a weird start time with the Celtics. And you really go out and dominate this game. You get some rest time, and now you look ahead at the next 3 games on the trip. The next 2 games will be both in Los Angeles, so the Celtics will not theoretically, they realistically will not travel between those games at all, other than 30 minutes from one arena to the next, as the Clippers and Lakers no longer play in the same arena. That'll be the Celtics' first game in the Intuit Dome this season. And then, of course, after that, rounding out the West Coast road trip. Who are we rounding it out against? Let's see. Can't remember the next team.
Sacramento, I believe.
Is it Sacramento?
It might not be actually. It might not be till March.
This is terrible. We should know this information. It's like I had it in my brain. I'm like, don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. And I'm
one
like,
game at a time.
Bring it up anyway.
I got Dallas. Finals rematch. Dallas.
Oh,
okay,
yes.
there we go.
I knew there was another tough game
Must
on
see
the schedule.
TV.
It's the Dallas game, of course, the finals rematch. I knew there was a big game. You guys said Sacramento. I was thinking, is that our big game on
I thought
TNT?
because like the California games or whatever it was too.
Yeah, that's what I was with you there.
But that's not till March. I think it's like when like the Utah trip comes up or like the Portland trip, whatever it was. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, there we go. Dallas, we got there.
Yeah. I mean, the Celtics, to start it out this way is certainly optimistic. And look at the last 3 games. The Hawks game was terrible. But if you win the Hawks game down the stretch, that's 3 straight wins for the Boston Celtics. And we still want to put those building blocks ahead, but we're going to have to see this game after game. And we cannot come back in here again and say, oh, we fumbled the details down the stretch, or, oh, we just didn't play a full 48 minutes of basketball. No, we should play this way every single night. And I know we're not going to be able to play this way because really the Warriors, they were missing a couple key players tonight. Draymond Green, the most notable starter missing for the Golden State Warriors. But regardless, the Celtics, this is what we know they're capable of. This is what we know they're able to do. And really, right now, they'll do it every other game, but it's just about doing it every single game. And that's really what we need to see out of the Celtics moving forward. And nights like tonight, it's weird to say a 40-point win is a little annoying, but it's kind of where we are with the Celtics right now. We want to see this consistently and not just every other game.
Right.
Yeah, I at this point in time right now, I mean, good win, all around win, obviously, but there's not going to be a game for a while, I feel like, until we really get back on track where I don't know what to expect, like, the next game, like, after tonight's win. Like, I don't know, like, I just don't want to be sitting here again, like, talking, like, oh, now they just fell short of the Clippers on Wednesday. It's like, yeah, I don't want that to happen again, but, like, the way that they're playing this year, I don't know, like, what the following game after a win would be like, just because of, like, the way that they've lacked the consistency with, all sorts of struggles. But I mean, listen, tonight was a good win. Obviously, Warriors are really, like, in the top 8 right now in their conference. So, I mean, they didn't have Draymond Green, so it was just worthy of, trying to get around the other guys too. And, I mean, they did a good all around job stopping them. So, I mean, I'm just glad that to start off this trip, we got rid of the easy part, I feel like. But, the Celtics in my mind, I just don't know. Like, I can't really, like, I want to say, like, figure out what their following game will be like. I don't know if they can get back on a winning streak.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the question. That's where I'm at too. I thought tonight was great, right? Again, and we know they can do this. That's not a surprise, right? This isn't the surprising part of the Celtics seasons. Aren't the wins like this? They're the losses. So, I agree with both of you. I thought tonight it was a great start to the road trip. Defensively, Seamus, I'm on par with you, man. I mean, they were great defensively. This is the brand you kind of want to see them play when they're struggling offensively. Is hold it down on the defensive end, right? It's okay if your shot's not falling. If you hunker down and play some strong defense, you're gonna be in there. You'll be in the game every time. Tonight they did that, and offensively it was flowing. They took advantage. They did that killer offense. We saw, Brown attack Steph Curry a lot, Schroeder a lot of action towards there. So I really, really did like the Celtics' intentions tonight. But again, kind of going back to Brendan's point, I agree. We don't know what to expect. So it's going to take a little bit for this team to kind of, our expectations to get back to, okay, we know what we're going to get with this team. So as for tonight, very satisfied, right? Yeah, anytime you can beat a team, get a win, let alone a 40-point win, right? It's a good feeling. So great game tonight by Boston. I want to see them continue to get together on the defensive end of the floor this West Coast trip. I really think that's where their mindset needs to be moving forward, guys. Defensively, how can they bring it every single night?
Well, that's what's been slipping up too over this recent stretch, because the effort, when we talk about the effort of the Boston Celtics really in December and January, where the effort is going to show the most is on the defensive end of the floor. Because if you're not rotating crisply on that end, if you're not together as a complete unit, you're going to slip entirely defensively. And that's really been the case for the Boston Celtics. And that it is a little bit weird of a point that this year they've gone away from that, because last year it did feel like at times, oh, the shot wasn't falling, and they would somewhat lean on their defensive prowess in order to get the job done on some occasions. And this year, it's been few and far between. It's been kind of a phrase with this team lately. I know they're 10 and, well, now they're actually 11-9 in their last 20 games. So hey, we're above that 500 mark in our last 20 games. Some optimism there. But regardless, the defensive end of the floor is really something that we've seen this year be completely uncharacteristic for the Boston Celtics. And it really goes along with their effort problems, because I believe if you're not owning any effort out on the basketball court, the defensive end of the floor is where it's going to show the most. Offensively, you can sometimes get by hitting terrible shots. You can sometimes get by getting to the free throw line. You can put points up on the board with sometimes not always putting in the best effort on that end. But then defensively, if you're not really giving the correct intensity, other teams are just going to walk it right down to the rim on you, and they're going to score easy buckets. They're going to find easy buckets on the perimeter. And that's what we've been really seeing out of the Celtics and their opponent as of late. Yet tonight, it's a completely different tone out of the Celtics. And this is where I believe that maybe even that Hawks game that went down, we lost in overtime. The last 3 games have been extremely more optimistic from a defensive standpoint for the Boston Celtics, especially the Orlando game and this game tonight against the Golden State Warriors. The Celtics really locked down in both of those games, held their opponent under 100 points. And even in that Hawks game, I felt like there were moments in which they did that. Now they went away from that at points in the game. But even that game, you go, oh, poor Porzingis, oh, Horford. You can talk yourself into a couple perspectives that we're not necessarily giving this team excuses at this point in time. We just cannot with how this team has been playing.
Right.
But even the last 3 games, I think, even the Atlanta game, there's more intensity involved in that game than there was in Toronto in the Pelicans game and the Kings game. That was really the worst 3-game stretch of the season against Sacramento, against New Orleans, against Toronto. Those are 3 opponents the Celtics 100% should beat. They went 1-2 against and nearly went 0-3. And really the intensity on both ends of the floor was not there whatsoever. But now they respond with a 3-game stretch where they go 2-1. It's not completely satisfactory because of that Atlanta loss, but really those other 2 wins. It's what we want to see more of, is really that Celtics team that just can go really almost wire to wire and just dominate an opponent. Dominate, not just win, dominate.
Right.
That's what's frustrating about this year's Celtics teams, that we know they can just dominate, not just win, dominate, and they can barely win on some occasions.
I think for me, and I want to say I've said this before, probably because again, a lot of what we've seen recently, it's been recycled. Oh, they're dark great. Oh, they're terrible, right? But like, I think tonight, what they did a really good job with was executing on both ends of the floor throughout 48 minutes, right? Kind of like what you just said, right? We saw the offense was clicking alongside the defense. It wasn't the first quarter was the offense, the second quarter was the defense, the third, right? You know, we've seen a lot of flip-flopping recently, especially against Atlanta, right? They came out, offense was going, okay, second quarter, now it's not, right? So tonight, I think Boston, they did a great job at, again, extending the lead, playing good on both ends of the floor, guys. That brings us in to our lead tracker. Almost, someone let Justin know, almost a wire-to-wire win, guys. 45, the biggest lead, obviously, for Boston, the largest lead for those measly Golden State Warriors, guys. I say measly because they have been struggling as of late here in the second half of the year. Biggest lead 2 for them, guys. It was all Celtics. And again, we saw this against Orlando just 2 games ago, guys. This trend that we see here on this lead tracker tonight, it is green trending upwards towards Boston. As the game prolongs, the lead extends, guys. Just how important is that for Boston moving forward to continue to extend their leads, because they have not been able to consistently do that?
Yeah, I think we saw tonight where it was, we kind of had like going like in the first quarter 8-0, and then Warriors just climb right back up in the first quarter. They climb back up like to make it like I think like 11-2 run or whatever. But tonight was an example of that. We can obviously maintain these leads because that's what we need to do if we want to keep winning more games. Because it's just because like they got to win more games in a way of doing this, because we're used to just seeing them get blowout wins. But I mean, I don't care at this point if it's a blowout win or if it's just like a neck and neck game. It's like they got to maintain keeping the Warriors down shooting or whoever they're up against still. But tonight was just a way, I think, for us to get back on track with kind of getting those big margin wins and keeping our momentum going and intensity.